Hello, hello. We are live with Michael Author, Transformational Sorcerer. Hello, welcome everyone to Money, Sex, and God. Michael, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for being here.
I'm very honored that you invited me, Genevieve.
Yay! We're gonna get into our bodies first before we start talking. Cool?
Let's do it.
All right, so close your eyes. Yeah, and you're already doing it. Invite breath into the body. Good. And then take your hands and you take them about 6 inches away from your body and wherever they want to be. And you can play with how far away they are, what feels good, getting into pleasure here. And then slowly putting the hands on your body, you finding skin. You have a lot of skin right now, so you can find skin. And just deeply pressing into the body, like deep full palm strokes on the body. Almost like a massage, really slow, settling in. And then notice how your body naturally wants to move. You can follow that if it does. And then turning the palms into scratches. So taking your nails and scratching your skin. And just noticing how that sensation changes the energy in your body. Good. And then bringing awareness into your genital area, just bringing that energy into the space. Because without that, we've got nothing. Maybe doing some pelvic floor contractions, whatever feels good. Yeah, and then from that place, you can open. That's a good place. So good. I'm all juicy now. Okay, talk.
Who are you want to talk about, Genevieve?
Tell me about sex and money.
Oh God. Okay. So, well, there are two things that when people think about them together, there's this that happens in most people, right? It's like either they think about sex work or they think about, people being prostitutes essentially in their relationship, right? Like settling for like money or security, exchanging sex in exchange for like that financial security, right? They like think of the typical housewife, or they think of these sorts of things, or they think like there's some moral thing why they shouldn't go together at all, right? And what I've found is that if you look at chapter 11 in Think and Grow Rich, right, there's this chapter on sex transmutation, and it's all about how to use the sexual force, the sexual energy, which is an energy, it's not like that, right, but how to use the sexual energy that flows through you to channel it into your purpose and to create systems and basically businesses as entrepreneurs, right? So it's this concept of functionally funneling your passion as a sexual being into what you're creating in the world. So it's viewing the sexual force as the creative force. And when you see it like that, and you're not thinking of, part A and slot B, as a friend of mine likes to talk about it, it becomes something that's inextricably linked.
Yeah.
Right? So your ability to connect with your passion, your sexuality, becomes the vehicle by which you actually perform all actions in the world, including and perhaps especially the way that you make money, right? In particular also, I view money, sales, and marketing and selling, right, as one primary vehicle by which large-scale transformation and alterations in social belief systems are created.
And so good. I've never heard that.
Yeah. And as such, you see the areas in our culture which have the greatest dysfunction are the areas which actually probably need to be bringing money into more. Right? So sexuality is one of those areas in which our society is deeply wounded and needs new models, new systems, new ways of thinking about it, right? And if we don't begin to channel money into that, there's going to be no real impetus for those things to change. And a lot of people think the way that we channel money into it is by, funding sex education and funding this and funding that. And that's one way that we can begin to create that change and funnel money into it. But another way is on the level of individual choice, right? Which is kind of what I work with. People who have a passion for, helping others with their sex lives, helping others with their love lives, with their relationships, and receiving compensation for that, right? And then creating mindset shifts in people, which then ripple outwards in this effect. So it's an entrepreneurial approach to reprogramming these social and cultural belief systems. So that's kind of the approach that I take. It make sense?
Yeah, I'm like just sitting with all of that, like all those bombs of like, yeah, fuck yeah, yeah, and what I'm hearing is like this growth, like the ability to plant seeds and grow a garden in places that have been deserted, right? So places like culturally where we're just ignoring it sexually or ignoring it financially, and we're going in there and we're going, you know what, actually, let's start revving this up. And have you seen that in your own life as well?
Yes. So what do we want to talk about for sex or money? Let me think. So one of my biggest wounds, my two biggest wounds in life have been around sex and money. Right. And I think that is the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but a lot of people. I was raised Catholic and we didn't talk about sex, and money was something that, was bad. And like, although we needed it, it was like, I shouldn't actually want it,
Right.
And it was like that with both sex and money. Although it was necessary for me to come into the world, I still shouldn't want it because like it's scary and dangerous, and I should only reserve it for after this like major, marriage commitment has been made, and otherwise, I'm disobeying God and all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So, in my life, it's been a journey to, repatterning that, and viewing sex as something that's, good and is a way to access my aliveness and my pleasure. Not that I need to source it from anyone else, but like my sexuality as the force that runs through me personally and who I choose to share it with. So that's one point. There was a period in my life where I very much didn't view things that way, and my sexuality was in the shadow, right? Like I didn't talk about it, but I still wanted it, right? And I still would do all sorts of things in my life to make sex happen. There was a time where I was like sourcing it from other people, periods of porn addiction, like most men in this culture, all of these various symptoms of suppressing sexual for my life. And so the unraveling of that has been a journey that I've shared somewhat publicly. But what people don't understand is also around the same time when I began unraveling those beliefs around sex, I also started unraveling them about money.
Right.
Because I was realizing that the way I viewed money was exactly the same.
Right.
I didn't want to talk about it. When the thought of asking for money for sharing of myself, for my gifts, for the things that I did, felt like horrible. And so my only option in my mind was to get a job working for someone doing something that I considered morally good for a wage that was non-negotiable and handed down to me by someone else, right? And that was the only thing that felt comfortable, because I wasn't comfortable asking other people for money, because I didn't believe that I was worth it. I didn't want to talk about it or have uncomfortable conversations. And so I was basically a beggar for both sex and money. And recognizing that was the first step, and surrounding myself with other people who didn't view these things that way was the first step towards unraveling that and being able to actually ask, not only for what I needed, but for what I wanted, and believe that I was deserving of that in the bedroom and in my business.
Yeah. So I don't know how much you know because we've been playing on Facebook forever, but I built up my first business to 6 figures a few years ago. And I remember when I was about to go to the 6-figure mark, I literally did a daily orgasm practice where I would have the money, have a picture of the check coming in above my head, and was just like, let's go. We're going there, and just channeling. And when it happened, it just kind of fell on me. Right. And total receiving, open, cool. That was easy. Let's do it again.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And it's I feel like for me, one of the big, the big surrendering places was to recognize that money and sex and all of that is this big game that we get to play.
Yes, it's a game. That's what I tell everybody when they join my mastermind, right? I'm like, okay, look, I know that this amount of money seems like a lot.
It's a game.
And I want you to, and I want to challenge you to imagine this as a game, right? Because that's how I'm viewing it. I'm like, you are committing to this for the program, right? And you're setting a time by which you're going to have your own business up, running, and figured out, and be in rapid action. And the container that I hold helps you remain in that motivation and keeps giving you next steps, getting you unstuck when you feel stuck, providing support, all of these necessary things for maintaining that forward momentum, so you actually do achieve that success financially.
And I mean, and the fact that for me, what makes me believe that your program works, right? Because I haven't been through it, and I haven't, right? Yeah. But the way that I believe that it works is because you have that sexual current in you. And I'm like, cool. Anyone who's got that knows what's up, right? Knows what's up.
And yes, and it's the first year. This is 2019 is the first year that I'm running Fucking Grow Rich. And one thing about the first time you do something is you must be very attuned to what's working and what isn't, and make those little adjustments, even when you have something that's already made. Just because it worked well doing it one way the first time doesn't mean that doing it the same way the second time is going to necessarily work. So you always have to be attuned to what's working and what isn't. So there are things that I will implement in the program that work, and some that fall flat. And the ones that fall flat, I leave, and the ones that work, I keep and continue testing new things, right? This is the entrepreneurial mindset. This is the failure is like,
yeah.
A
lot of I was telling a friend of mine, I feel like the first 3 years of my first business was very much just throwing like just constantly throwing spaghetti at the wall and being like, oh, that's stuck. Cool. Great. We're going to grab that. And like, we're going to take that and put that here. And now that I threw so much spaghetti, I like know which spaghetti to buy, and I'm not going to go and throw all the spaghetti all the time. Right. But at the beginning, there's like this outward current of momentum that has to happen, right? For people to really get their feet into business.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main thing that prevents people from really going after or accomplishing their dreams is the unwillingness to jump off the cliff to do it.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
100%. And I think, you know, you and I don't know your story, but my story was like a similar, like rock bottom 18,000 times. And then now like, oh, cool. Life is amazing. I'm awake today. Right. Yep. I'm alive today. And so jumping out of the airplane is like, whatever. In my body, it feels like whatever, because I've already been down. Is that the same for you? Does it feel easier to kind of just go, okay, because...
Oh, absolutely. I remember like when when I was trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing in life, there was a period where I took failure very hard, right? So around age 25 or so, I remember I applied for a PhD, or like 3 or 4 PhD programs. Mm-hmm. I was rejected from all of them, probably because I applied late. I mean, or I applied like right at the deadline. But I got those letters and I was like, fuck, I'm worthless. Oh my God, nothing's ever gonna work out.
About me, and like, oh my God, this means I'm not worthy. Yeah, totally. Been there.
And that frame of mind lasted me 2 years. I was in just like depression and not taking any more forward action for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So that was a big like thump for me. Mm-hmm. But you know, and then I started a photography video business, and you know, I didn't have the right entrepreneurial mindset at the time, so I would like put myself out there, and then I would get discouraged when I didn't get the business that I wanted or whatever. And that was kind of like another yeah. And then you know, functionally, then I started working as a masculine empowerment coach, and I did pretty well with that. But I was still working for someone else, and I learned like skills like enrollment and things like that. And when I was fired rather dramatically from that job, it was like a and I had to decide, was I going to go or not? And I decided, well, frankly, I made it so I didn't have an option, right? There were like, or it felt like I didn't. And so from giving myself no recourse other than to remain in inspired action and launch something else, yep. I found that it was a very powerful place from which to launch. Yeah. You know,
I mean, that's the sorcery, right? Is like that's the same thing for me in my success in business. It's always been, I'm going to say yes to the thing that I can't have any other option. Like, I'm going to sign up for that program. That means that I have to be successful. Otherwise, I can't pay the person. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
My business for years.
And this is the thing that a lot of people don't get, right? So it's like they view somebody who's like, oh, you would take the last $500 out of someone's bank account, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't force them to do anything. Right. But I've given like the last of my money towards something and made it so I had to fucking do it. Right. And when I chose to put myself in that situation where it was sink or swim, motherfucker, right. I found when I believed in myself, I chose to believe in myself by doing that, and then I stepped up.
Yeah, it's and then it feels like, I don't know if this feels like for you, but it feels like, I jump off the airplane, I jump in, this is with every business venture that I've had. And then there's a moment where I go, oh, fuck. Right. So
you're on the roller coaster. Yeah.
You're like 3 weeks into your, like something. And like, all of a sudden, like everything sucks. And it's not just like the business, it's like everything. Sex starts to die, relationships die, like people start yelling at you for random things. You start just spontaneously combusting into a ball of nothingness. And it's these moments that, years ago would make me shrivel up and die. Right. Yep. And now there's a lean in the same way that we would do it in sex, right? Now there's like a lean in to this dark place. Can you talk about that? Because I think it's so good.
Yeah. So part of being a good coach or a business coach or any sort of a coach really is identifying those cycles of expansion and contraction, anticipating them, letting people know that it's not only a possibility, it's a probability,
Right.
if not a certainty, that people will experience these feelings of like, oh no, I can't do it. Like, what did I just do? I'm totally out of my comfort zone. And being able to provide a structure by which even in those places they are held, right? Because because you've been through it, that on the other side is something even greater.
Yeah.
Right. And if you choose to lean into those feelings, to express them and process them in a place with other people who are not trying to put you in a victim mentality, but who listen to you, empathize, and ask what do you need, it allows you to move through that in a way that you can actually begin to view that process with a certain degree of grace and familiarity with it. You're like, oh, okay, I know this feeling. I know this feeling. I know it's not going to be forever.
Right.
And I still want to scream and punch pillows and blame everybody else for why my life sucks and all of that. But I'm going to choose not to feed that. And I'm going to ask myself, what's next? What do I need to be able to feel held and move through this?
Yeah, and that's that holding, right? Like that's so key. Like we either have a coach to do it, or that's really the answer that I've always had a coach. I've had a coach for the past 5 years. Like I will never not have a coach, I don't think, because I can't see that bend. I can't do it. No matter how big my business gets, it would just be irresponsible. And it would be irresponsible to my clients for me to not have a coach,
Right.
So
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like the answers, let me think, like what could you do? See, friends don't work. Friends don't work because you don't want to, first of all, you're leaning on you'd be leaning on your friend a lot. And they probably wouldn't want to do all that work with you or have the time to do it if they weren't getting paid, right? And you could actually ruin a relationship like that.
Yeah, girlfriends, no.
No, that's the worst.
Stop. No. Number one way to kill your sex life.
Yeah, the only option that I could think of for someone might be somebody who particularly if you're in a really depressive place, and a mentor could help you get started. And once you begin to experience your first successes, you're going to end up realizing that your mentor isn't enough to hold you through all of it. So you need to start creating more of the structures which like a coach or some sort of group program or something can provide for you. So at least that's been my experience. When I didn't have a coach, I was able to have a business with one-on-one clients, but it didn't feel good to sustain it for long without a coach. And frankly, I needed more direction because I felt like there was a sense in which I was needing the clients too much because I didn't have a way to process my oh my God, what am I doing? Feelings.
Yeah. I mean, the number of emails that I send to my coach, like, oh my God, what the frick am I doing? And just to have an outlet and a place for that, so it's not sitting inside of me, right? And it almost feels like the bigger the business gets, the more of those emails I have to send, right? Yeah. Just to clear it out and be true, to find truth, right? Like that's all noise, and we need to get it out so that things can flow, right? And money can come in and we can be in our bodies. And,
yeah. So that's that's the way I think of it. I want to speak about one thing in particular, and um, I guess I don't necessarily want to speak about it so much as I want to ask about it, and that is, what do you think about what do you think the cause of all of the triggers that arise from when people mix the concepts of sex and money? Where do you think that comes from, largely or culturally? I'm not saying because I have an answer. I just want to be the answer.
Play with it. I mean, I always go, my framework for everything is in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about the triggers around sex and money, I feel like constriction. I'm just like talking through my process. I feel like constriction in my womb space and my like genital area, just like, and my inner thighs are closing.
Yeah.
And so my assumption is that there's a younger patterning in my nervous system, right? From when I was young, which I think is all societal stuff, that my body learned sex and money close, constriction. And my mind goes, here are all the belief systems that we're now going to put attached to that so that we can be right. And so that we can keep our body closed.
Yeah. So speaking about those earlier cultural patternings, right? A lot of times people, well, they can be difficult to look at. So what did you do personally? I'm curious to begin to repattern that and have sex and money, rather than having a constriction feeling, reprogram it to a feeling of expansion surrounding those things.
Are you interviewing me now? Because this is really.
Well, I guess I am. I just want to know.
My body was my answer for me. It was my nervous system. I have gone through so much conditioning, fear-based conditioning that my body tacked on from just a childhood of trauma, and then more trauma, and then more. So that I would keep starting something and then my body would constrict, and I'd go and try to have a relationship, my body would constrict. I would then create a belief and run away from it, right? Or go and try to make a sale, my body would constrict, couldn't make the sale, run away from it. So it was honestly like pleasure on my body that allowed my body to open up and release. And learning like, where are my pleasure points in my body that my body can't defend against? Like, where are the places in my body that I have to open so that my brain doesn't get in the way and I can stay in that like really true vulnerable receiving space. For me, it's my body. For other people it's probably not, but it's where everything opened up for me. It's where my business started catapulting and that was it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's their body. That's why, embodiment stuff's so hot right now.
That's so good. Embodiment coach. Dude, yeah. This is a thing.
But, it wasn't that for me. That's interesting. It was a lot of pain and terror. Painting myself into that corner until I no longer had any option but to learn everything that would allow me to show up in that way. And I had already had a basis in Tantra and embodiment practices and things like that. But for me, it was a mindset shift that, although my body had in some ways learned those patterns of being, my brain hadn't somehow integrated it. And so, it's a good question. What was it for me that created that final shift? And I think it was just that, frankly, I'm just having one final traumatic experience that required that I step into something else.
I mean, there's something about bottoming out that I am so glad I had it. I'm so glad that my ego ran me so far to the ground that I now have no other choice but to live freely, right? And without my own weird constructions of what I thought was okay. And thank God for the bottoms, right?
Yeah.
Did we read some of these comments before you go away?
Yeah.
Okay, this is gonna, hang on. Everyone's saying great things. Savvy just says it's smarter to have our own coaches. Oh, here's a question from Savvy for you. I was offering a healthy relationship workshop recently, and one girl was saying she'd rather have someone she knows than someone that she doesn't know. What would you say to that?
What do you mean? I mean, like, I'd rather have someone that she knows than someone that she doesn't know? In what context?
To coach her. She wants someone that she knows.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't coach anyone I don't know. But the point is like I usually select a coach based on energy, right? Like and whether I feel like I'm a yes to that person in my body when I'm speaking with them, and like I feel like, oh, this person has the next thing that like I need to integrate, right? So my current coach, you know, I invested an obscene amount of money after, you know, only, I think probably maybe around like, it was close to 90 minutes, you know, or 2 hours of talking time with them. And I was just, you know, I didn't need anything more than that. I was just like, yeah, you're it, you know? Yeah, it's like, oh, it's an obscene amount of money? Okay, let me figure out how I'm going to do that.
Right, let me figure it out. And then I always like, day 2, I just like go, what did I just do?
Oh, I was doing that for a month and a half. I hated my coach. I was like, fuck, why did I say this? Fuck.
And then you wait and try to find reasons that they suck so that you can then like be even more angry with them at how much.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
I was talking to my partner. I was like, I'm mad at my coach. I think she sucks. I don't think that she's holding me right. I want a different communication. I don't, you know, like, and I'm just like, and then finally, you know, like everything started to click into place, and I was like, oh,
right.
Okay, all right. So this is what she was trying to get me to this whole time. All right, okay, fine. I love you,
man. Same game, and that's what I don't think. You know, I think it's important for people to hear that because it has to start with an energy.
Mm-hmm.
Sales calls are all about energy entirely, right? And then B, your client is gonna contract if they've actually made a leap. Like, like what you were saying before, if they've actually jumped off the airplane, like they're gonna get fucking scary, and you're gonna be the reason for their failure. So like, get ready, right?
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's funny because it's just like in sex, right? So like a lot of times, and this happens with in public conversations with men a lot, right? Like, so they will be in a sensual situation with the woman and she'll be like, yes, yes, yes. And then something happens, she gets triggered, right? And then she contracts. And then the next day, she's like, I just want to tell you, I feel violated. You know, and the guy's like, right. You know, it's, and sometimes, and this is the difference between ownership of that feeling of violation and not, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so when you own that feeling of violation, then it becomes the question of like, okay, so I feel violated, let me look at that, versus like, I feel violated, for sure you violated me, even when, you know, that person's showing up, is there for conversation, like all those sorts of things, right? So you can do that with a coach too. Right? You can project all your shit onto the coach and say like, you violated me, you took money from me when I was in a low space and all of that, and you know, that's a coach's worst nightmare, because what they're actually doing is they're there for you,
right?
You know, like they love you.
Right. This isn't an easy gig, guys. Like we do this because we're obsessed with this job, right? We're obsessed with this career, and when, at least for me, when I have a client, I am like in, and it's, you know, on the piece with the violation, when, you know, so say a woman, right, feels violated, she says to her partner, oh my God, I'm leaving. there's this place in which he gets to hold space for it,
Yeah.
for her freak out, right? And we get to do the same thing in our coaching biz.
Yeah.
It's just like not making it wrong, totally cool. It's not true. I'm going to hold you at your truth, but like love you in this space as well. And I'm not going anywhere. You know?
And I will say violations occur. You know, like in coaching and in relationships.
Because there's a power dynamic, and it's going to, and coaches are human, and what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? And just to throw something else into the pot before we end, what if we can never actually be violated?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying your posts, your what if posts recently. I think they're really fun and thought provoking. You know, like especially the like, what if there was nothing to fix in your sex life? I was like, yes,
it's all perfect. Like there's nothing like that coach that pisses you off is perfect, and that partner that does some stupid shit to you is perfect, and you know it's so good. So glad. Let me see if and we've been ignoring them. Sorry guys. Money. It was a money thing. Oh my god, that elephant. Say like thank you for doing your 12-hour Facebook Live shitstorm, because I was like, I want to hang out with my friends for 7 hours, and you gave me the permission to do it. So thank you, Elephant Man. I'm totally having deja vu. I feel like I've seen this elephant before. I don't know. Savvy, to clarify, I'm wondering what you'd say to someone who says they don't want to get help from a stranger. They'd rather dish it out to a friend because it's someone they know. I can't look at you. She can't afford coaching right now. Oh, okay. So it's a money thing.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you say about money objections? Because it's probably the same thing I say, but I'm curious.
So this is what I did to acquire my first coach. I was in a really horrible financial situation. I didn't even know how to make money. I was not an entrepreneur. I'd never been an entrepreneur before. And yet I saw a way of being that I wanted so badly that I was willing to invest so much of my time and energy helping this person with their business, doing bitch work, sending emails, like, you know, doing marketing, making their life, doing video work for them, right? Like I invested, I don't know how many freaking hours helping this person out, right? To learn that skill set. So my thought is, if you want that enough, you will invest or give of yourself in that in a way that is of benefit to that person, you know, and ask for what you want. Make that proposal. Say like, I really want to work with you. I would trade, you know, 10 hours a week of my time for, you know, helping you with your email business or your emails, your social media, whatever you need. And I understand that I will actually grow and learn from that as well, because I did. Right. So just it doesn't always need to be a financial commitment, but you must demonstrate commitment for the coaching relationship to work. And I would also say, if I were your coach, I wouldn't necessarily believe that you couldn't. I would always ask how, right? How can you do it rather than can you do it?
Yep. I mean, I've literally taken out, so a little bit of my story, single mother. I bought a $7,000 certification program to get started on the erotic blueprint journey, and did not, like at that time, $7,000 was like, are you freaking, I'm going to murder myself and kill everyone else. Cause like literally my son and I were like, and we live in New York City, which is like,
oh man,
$15 for a banana. And so I was total panicked, but it was a fuck yes in my body. And I knew that. And I was like, how can I do this? Like the question was, how can I do this? And I went to them and I was like, how can I do this? And that I always tell the story because it just speaks so much to money. I ended up taking out a loan and we ate like rice for a month. We were fine. Like cool. And then,
I eat rice too.
Yeah, it's like rice is great, man. It's totally sustainable. You can raise kids on rice. the end of August when I got certified, I made $12,000 that weekend.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, just kidding. Just kidding. That's not even a thing, because it's just an energy play. And if you want it enough, it's there. And so for me, if someone gives me a money objection, I just tell them they don't want it enough.
And it's true. They don't.
Right.
Like if you want something enough,
right.
you will do anything to get it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. 100%. 100%. This is, we could talk all fucking night. This is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, people are saying thanks because you're great. I think that's it.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you. This was so fun to jive with you. So good. Thank you for all the things you're doing in the world. And just like, you know, I see how there's a space that you're holding for new entrepreneurs that is like, a lot of people work with the entrepreneurs that are already doing big things. And I love that you're in a place where you're like kind of that middle line where people are like, I'm almost to the 6 figures. I can't quite figure out how to get there. There's not a whole lot of coaches that work in that arena. And it's neat.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I learned that there's only one skill that you need in order to hit 6 figures in your business: enrollment. Learn that, you got it. And scaling from there is a systems question. Right. You know, so the skills that get you to point A are probably the skills that are keeping you back from getting to point B. So anyway, what?
I said you're right. This is true.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Enrollment into everything, into relationships, into love, into money, into life. Like just enroll everyone into everything you're doing. And then
always be enrolling.
Oh, all the time.
It's not something you do, it's who you are.
And the more sex you have, the more enrolling you are. So great to talk to you, love. Have a good one.
Take care.